We're going to dig into the last phase of the hero's journey, which is the return. And we're going to adapt that into how to prime your new client or new customer, how to prime them for that next purchase or next project or next contract or next event, like the next thing that's an actual, whatever conversion is in your world. So just to recap where we started, and like kind of like the significance of this last phase is your prospect, your dream client, your customer is the hero of the story. And your job as the business person, as the person selling to them or wooing them, is to frame out your product and service in this hero's journey framework and then lead them down the path as their mentor, as their ally. Usually they will refuse the call to adventure. They're like, nope, I don't want to do that. And then you as a mentor will nudge them along a little bit and explain and raise the stakes. Then they'll eventually cross the threshold. So they'll say yes to a meeting, they'll click on something, they'll open something, they'll take some form of an action to launch them on their journey there. In this case, a buying journey or a business journey. They go through some shit, some stuff that doesn't go right, stuff that does go right, some different scary things. And then they'll have the big scary thing, which is typically opening their wallet and or signing a contract. They get their elixir, their sword, their lightsaber, their magic potion, which is your product or service. You show them how to properly use it and unleash it in their lives around the world. At this stage in the hero's journey, they need to go back to the normal world. So this is the point when there's a final deliverable. It could be the point where there is a they receive the product, they've been using it. It could be, if it's an educational product, it would be when they actually finish the series. So, but it's at the point when they're kind of done using it or done learning how to use it, or there's some level of finality there, and it ranges a lot business to business. So in movies, there's a few different things happen when people go back to their old world. They're out of the buying process, out of the onboarding process, out of the use process. And sometimes they return to accolades. So if you're doing a project and someone gives something to their boss, like it could be photography, for example, they're gonna be like, wow, that was amazing. Like, that was awesome. You know, let's have them back. Which is great. It doesn't always work that way though, especially depending on the type of thing that you're selling. Sometimes if they get back, there's more danger. So one of the things that happens in business is when you give someone a new tool or a new thing, they use it, and they go back to their regular life, they may have gotten more attention via this thing. And oftentimes what happens is when you elevate your life or elevate your business, you replace small problems with bigger problems of scale. So that's something else, something to think about, is that they may be happy with it, but once they're done with the whole journey and go back to business as usual, things might be a bit scarier for them. Another thing to look at is when they come back to things, is oftentimes their things seem different. Or if they've been working on a project and go back to business as usual, where their mentor, you, their ally, you, is not involved in the day-to-day or the week-to-week stuff, things are going to be like, wait a minute, like what's going on here? And they're going to start noticing things. I'll never forget the first time I ever took a film class. Our teacher gave us a big disclaimer, and they said, you know, if you are going to take this class, you know, you're gonna hate me forever. because you're never going to watch a movie the same way again, because you're going to start noticing jump cuts and things wrong in editing. You're going to start seeing framing issues, and you're going to start watching films from a director's eye, or a cinematographer's eye, or an editor's eye, and not just for the sake of entertainment. So oftentimes when you give someone that's nicer, they're not going to look at our old stuff the same way. It's like, wait a minute, like, who put that there? So sometimes they return to an upgraded world. This is a clip from Baby Driver. It has a very, very Hollywood ending, even though the film itself is really gritty. And both characters in this, actually, this is a case where the boy gets the girl in the end, but the girl goes through her own hero's journey. She has her own cave scene. She's learned new things when the main character is in her life, and she's gone and she went and launched into her own journey in the form of a road trip when her man was in prison. So it's that's one of the reasons I like this example. Another thing that happens is when they get back, things are a little awkward. Where in some cases, and here, this is the real deal. In business, sometimes you could do everything right and some things could go wrong. So they might get back to the old world and it may not have been what they expected. And they may get back to their job or their life, and maybe it doesn't feel different at all to them. It just may feel a little awkward and strange. Ultimately, regardless of what that outcome is, what that final emotion is on the tail end of their journey, there's going to be value change. We've gone over that and other things before, where if they started happy, they'll end sad. If they started sad, they'll end happy. If they started not confident, they'll end confident. There's some sort of value change. So it may go from comfortable to awkward. In certain cases, and certainly in my business, that is a necessary part of the process. If you're not feeling a bit awkward and uncomfortable, you're probably not pushing the campaigns and the training hard enough. We see that in fitness. If there's not a bit of discomfort, you're not sweating, you're not, no changes happening. So it's going to feel uncomfortable. And that's just something to accept, that when you have a new customer, a new client go through that whole process with you. In some cases, the process may take a day or two. It may be really, really fast. I've had cases where I've talked to a stranger and kind of taken through all these steps in the course of a couple of emails and phone calls, and now we're doing business. But, and then there's still some form of things that are different. So just be very, very cognizant of that. In business, one of the things that you see happen wrong, we went over this a little bit last week, but I want to drill down a bit deeper into it, is when you've wrapped up your transaction, where there's, like here's what we've done, here's the final invoice. And that's typical standard business. Like, here's the invoice, here's the timesheet, here's the final deliverables, here's the source files, here's the evidence that I actually got it done. I remember I used to do postering, and some of the postering people would make you take pictures of what polls you attach the posters to. Like, here, this is the part of the deliverable, part of what you're getting paid for. And the problem with that is that it's not taking into account the huge variance of emotions that your new customer or new client could be feeling. So, and oftentimes you may think they're feeling a certain way. So, they must feel so relieved. That campaign totally rocked, or those pictures totally rocked, or that performance totally rocked, or that, they got a lot of use out of that new widget. But they may not feel that way. So you don't necessarily know. And that's where one of the assumptions that are made at the end of something, that they're going to be happy and leave you a good review. And that's another thing. It is best practice to ask for a review after final delivery, but be very, very careful with timing on that. After someone's gone through the process, like, it's best maybe to find out how happy they are before you ask them for the review. I've had that blow up in my face more than once. So just something to think about. So in this particular side-by-side we're looking at here, like, here's everything we've done. Here's everything that you've gotten out of this. Here's what I've learned. Sometimes readdressing the fact that you were on the journey with them, and I was like, yeah, like, I really enjoyed this aspect of working with you. Or I was like, oh, wow, that was a little dicey there. And I'm glad we were able to work through it. Thanks again for being patient when there was a delay when I was sick. And here's what we could do next. Like, here would be a good next step. Now, that next step is going to be different, but that is best discovered when you're actually conversing with the client. Typically on a live call, not over email. Even if it's a small transaction, having a project management, they call it a post-mortem, is really, really important.